So today we are going to study about web development. What is web development and the requirements for developing a website? What are websites? So when someone asks so, or when you think about websites, what can you say about them? Now, normally they are actually set up web pages. Okay, you can see if we just consider a website, they will be having some web pages. And those web pages can be accessed through a browser under a domain name. So the domain name, for example, you can see like facebook.com, google.com, or ebay.com, or any other domain name. So under that domain name, you can see set of web pages are there. So those web pages together called or known as website. And as it said before, it can be accessed through a browser because browsers are the software which can read those websites, web pages, and its content, and they are rendering them and displaying us the content of those web pages. And why websites? Or it can be considered as types of websites. Now, these are the reasons, like you can find just to give information to others, to the other users of your services or products. You can have a website to give those information. So it's just an informative site. Okay. Now, for example, if we just go through our website, now it's just giving the information to the users. So now it says that about us, our services, what we have done, what we have, and this is our features and all. Just information, what we do, or the classes and the courses and all. So that is all you can see here. So this is actually an informative website. So just to give information about our company and our services to the users. So whoever visit our website, they can find those information. So a website can be one of it. And a website can be an online store or e-commerce. So where just we buy and sell. So we can upload products there, we can publish them, we can add those details of a product, and it can be viewed by users, and they can buy them, they can order, buy. So these things can happen in a website. So if when it happens, it just identified as e-commerce site or online store. So this is actually a second type of website, or the second reason to have a website. And third, a website can be a digital marketing. So it can be used for promoting our services or our products or anything else. Okay. So now, as I show you before, you can just see now these are having what? It's a kind of promotion. This is like nowadays, now we can just promote our services or products via Facebook advertisement, Google advertisement, or these kind of advertising services are there. We can just visit their platform, and we can just use their platform and advertise our services on their platform. Same as that, we can just advertise. This is a kind of marketing, promoting, letting others know about our services using our website. So this is actually identified as promoting our services and products. And another thing is a website can be a functional or informative website. So information in the sense like they're collecting data and then modifying them, editing, deleting, and then this actually most of the time going to involving the site is going to involve with database. Okay, so many functions will be there, and so many dynamic functions. So the site is not going to be static. And most of the e-banking, financial websites and all, like most of the sites are functional websites, so you can find them. At least like if you are having like a form, so then it's actually having a function. Okay, so not just like you can see here on our website. Now you can find that now we are actually having mostly just content, static content here on our website. But when you just visit the some other pages, we are having forms. So you can just apply through that. So when you apply through these things, when you just have this type of functions on your website, then it is considered as a functional website. But it is actually, we can't just, it's not 100% functional website because just forms are there just to apply. But anyway, these kind of functions, applying, registering, logging, so these kind of functions, if they are there on a website, then they are actually called or considered as a functional site. Okay, and then now the next thing is you should know a software development life cycle or system development life cycle or any life cycle actually. They are going to have these kind of similar set of steps in developing these websites or software. Okay, now very first thing is you have to gather the requirements. Gathering requirements in the sense you are going to collect the things from the users or whatever they want on their website or the software system, and you will be like collecting the requirements and then you will be analyzing them. Okay, so analyzing in the sense like whether it's feasible or not. Okay, that is one way of analyzing. So some of their requirements cannot be done by these available technologies or with our knowledge. Okay, for example, they are asking something, but we don't know how to do that by programming. So then we can't just go ahead with that. So we can just hire someone to develop for us or on behalf of us, or we can just mm, find another person to do these kind of things. Otherwise, we can't just go on with those requirements. Okay, that is one way of analyzing. Another thing is now you have to analyze the problem and design uh, to actually implement a program. We can't just actually start writing a program straight away because it won't be very efficient programming. It won't be an efficient one because there may be mistakes, errors, and all in when you just compile them. When you just execute those programs, there you might find them. So to avoid these things, we have to do these two things. Actually, designing, analyzing those things actually mostly carried in the same phase. Okay, so requirement gathering is a one phase, analyzing requirement and designing them is another phase. And the fourth step or fourth phase is actually development or programming or coding. This is where you are actually writing a program. This is where you're actually developing the software, or this is where you are going to code whatever you just designed before in those phases. So then what you have to do is deployment. So before that, actually, you should test it. You should test it, and then if everything is okay, you have to deploy. In the sense, you'll be hosting. Sometimes you'll be installing the software on the client's computer or smartphone. So if it is an app, so this is called as deployment process, and then maintenance. So after developing your software, there might be changes. There may be a new requirement. So these things should be maintained anyway. So when you find or when you get new requirements, what you have to do is you have to gather them, and you have to analyze them, designing, implementation. Those steps again will be repeated. So since these steps are repeated as a cycle, so because of that, we are just calling this as system development lifecycle, so software development life. So software can be a website, a mobile application, or a web application. And now we will go through these requirements for a website or to develop a website. So these are the things required: content, program or code or software, and database, server, hosting, and domain. So we'll explain these things in detail. So content, what are content? Actually, if you just develop a website, you might require text to put on your website, images, videos, audios, and other content on your website. So they are content of your website. So mostly now clients will be giving the content for your to develop their website, or sometimes we'll be having content writers who just develop this content for a website. So website content writers are there. So this is actually a different job, and this is performed by a different person. And next thing is program. So programming in the sense, this is where we are going to write the solution for the problem. So software, they need a software in the sense, or they need a website in the sense, they have a problem. Okay, let's say now, even informative side is actually a solution for a problem. So what was the problem? The problem is they just wanted to let their audience or the users know about their website. That was a problem. Okay, informing their services and all to the customers was a problem. They were not able to inform them. So now they are about to inform it. The way is through a website. So now that is a solution. So now creating a website is a solution for that problem. So it can be done. So it can be done by writing a program. So programs are actually having programming languages. Computer programming languages are actually having the instructions for computer. The reason is now when you just write a program or software code, it's actually I already said that it is a solution, but it's again that solution is going to be executed or solved. The problem is solved on a computer. So we can't just solve a problem on computer because computer can't understand what we can. So computers actually, you know that they know just binaries, that machine language and all. So when we can't just ask the computer to solve our problem. So we have to communicate with the computer in computer languages. So we have to use that computer language to solve those problems. So now computer languages are having instructions. They will be instructing the computer to solve those problems. Okay, now you are requesting a website. It's executed, solved, and then they are actually viewed, and you are clicking a button, it is just taking to another page or wherever it's linked. So these are actually instructions and solution for that problem. So now programming languages for websites actually mostly these are the basics, and now we have so many programming languages to design and develop a website. But anyway, these are the basic programming languages. So others are actually built on these. So HTML, CSS, JavaScript are actually used for front-end development, and Python, PHP, Java, or any other scripting languages can be used to develop a backend. And now database. So a database is actually required. Now, if you're just designing a static website, then you don't need to have a database server. But if your website is having any data to be data handling and all, if there are actually, you have to insert data, you have to keep a record of data, you have to modify them, you have to like show them to the users and all. So when you have these kind of requirements, then you have to anyway have a database with your website. So mostly those online store, that e-commerce websites, functional websites, information system, they must have a database because they are involving with data. Okay, if it is just information, there is no issues, because now static website, you can just give those information with that. Okay, you can just write everything in HTML, so then you don't need to connect with a database. That website, no need to be connected with the database. But if you are designing a functional website or information system or an e-commerce, then you should have a database connected with your website. So it is actually database service actually providing data services like inserting, updating, deleting data. So for example, like when you just register with Facebook or any other social media, what happens there? Actually, your registration details are stored on the database. Why it's stored? Like mostly these are stored for the later use. So now later use in the sense you can't just visit the website Facebook without logging. So when you just log into the website, it just verify the username and password with the data with the data record on their database. So these are some of the situations that you can just find here where the database is actually required. So there are many databases, but these are the few of them: MySQL, MS SQL, Oracle, and all. A host is actually a process of saving the website from a server. Okay, this is actually now. Okay, now this is what you should know. A host in essence is just a storage. So you should have a storage to store your files. Okay, now mostly we just buy these things, a host, and how to buy them. And then the server. So server in the sense, like we already studied about database server. So database server is required. That is there. And you need a web server to execute the response of clients. Okay, now it should respond to the client's request. Yeah. And now a host service providers, now for example, HostGator, GoDaddy, Bluehost and not. Now what is server? Server is actually a system that runs the code of a website to respond client's request to the site. So your site is actually web files are stored on a host. And when it's requested, the file is requested from a browser, from a client's browser, then that file on a host is actually served by the server. Domain name also required to develop a website. Actually, without having a domain name, you can develop a website on localhost, but when you host your website on internet, a domain name is required. So that domain name is actually assigned to your website to uniquely identify it on internet. So that is all about this web development introduction class. And here you have learned about what is a website and the requirements for developing a website and the software development lifecycle. In the next class, we will learn about developing a website in WordPress.